Hey, listen, I want to talk about a topic that oftentimes when I'm coaching with people that they come to me and say that they keep themselves silent or they won't do the thing that they know that they need to do for worry of what somebody might think or say or do, or often maybe they have somebody that they look up to in their life that they don't want to offend or upset, so they change what they say, the story, the words that they use to fit into the box of maybe what somebody else thinks, because they don't want to offend somebody or they don't want to be ostracized or kicked out or judged. And they're so worried about what other people think that they mutate, meaning this is who they are, and they twist who they are to fit into the box of what other people want them to be. And the easiest way to do this is to just be silent, just to do nothing, just to let it pass. And this manifests in some ways. You know, I was talking to a lady the other day. She said that she doesn't put her videos out there about, what God is showing her because of worry about maybe what leaders that follow her might think of what she's saying. So she just hasn't done that in 2 years because of that. There was a lady that I was coaching about 3 years ago where she wanted to write a book, but she was worried about, some people that she was around, what they would think if she put this book out there. I've experienced this myself throughout my life where I've chosen to not do things because I don't want to poke the bear or push the envelope too far on certain topics, and have turned myself silent and become less than what I know that I'm called to do out of fear of what other people think. Is this something that you do? If it is, I want to say this. There's hope for it, and oftentimes this comes from a couple places. We have to make peace with our past. We need to make peace with the things that we need healing in. We need to set boundaries in what we allow other people to speak into our life. And we need to also respect other people's boundaries in those areas. This comes from being a place where we allow what other people might think or say, or their perceptions of us, dictate our actions because we're worried about not fitting in, not being a part of a group, not looking good to other people. And our main priority is not what our calling is. Listen, our calling is not to look good to other people. We're made to be loving and have connection with people. Absolutely. But not at the expense of turning ourselves into somebody that we're not at the expense of giving up our identity to fit into a box. And yet oftentimes this is what we've been taught or learned throughout life, is that the only way to be safe is to turn myself into what other people want me to be. And we make ourselves silent out of the fear of what other people might think. And so if that's you today, I want to encourage you. I want to honor that fact that I get it. I understand it. It can be gripping. It can be hard to speak out, to say things, to talk about what we're afraid of for fear of how other people might judge us or perceive us. You don't have to rip the Band-Aid off right away, but sometimes it's okay to maybe talk to somebody about what you're going through. Maybe, it's okay to, if you have a message or something that's on your heart, to talk about. You don't need to be cutting or direct about exactly what it is or give all the details, but you don't need to be silent and turn yourself into somebody that you're not just to appease somebody else. Hey, Lisa, how are you doing today? You're so encouraging and awesome and helping so many people, especially in this area, that feel like they have to be silent for the fear of what other people think. And so keep doing what you're doing. And if you're somebody that feels like you have to become somebody that you're not to fit in with a people group or to fit in with your friend group or worried about that, sometimes we got to just change friend groups. Listen, I used to party and drink and have all forms of debauchery that was not godly years ago. And I had to cut off some of those friends. And even now I've noticed there's people that maybe they were in my life for one season and they're not for another season. And that's okay to set that boundary. That's okay to shift and to change things if it's not working, if it's not helping us go after what we're made for. How do we know what choices to make? How do we know the right decisions and discernment? This comes from prayer. This comes from spending time in the Word. This comes from spending time with wise counsel and people that know truth and know you. Oftentimes, if we're believing different things that people say from various sources, and we're worried about trying to fit in with everybody and become all things to all people, this is a common misconceived thing, for example, that people have. In one sense, becoming all things to all people is really having compassion on all people, but we don't need to change who we are and become somebody that we're not just to fit in from a self-serving place of, I'm worried that if I don't do this, that I'm going to be judged or hurt. Love does not fear. Love does not fear pain or punishment. And so if you're worried about getting in trouble, you keep yourself silent out of fear of what other people think, I want to encourage you today that you're worth it, that you don't need to be afraid. And let's give that fear a cease and desist notice. Let's say that fear has no power over your life. We're not going to go to other people and say, you don't have power over me. Your fear is not a person, by the way. Your fear is something that is personal inside of you, that is keeping you, filtering what you're doing, and you are submitting to it. You are saying that fear has more power over me. It's time to step out. It's time to go after the dreams. It's time to go after the things that God's called you to do. It's time to not let your fear keep you stuck in the patterns of the old season. It's time to move forward. It's time to move out of the past and into the future. Take a step, pick up your mat, and walk forward. And if you're keeping silent, if you're not doing something, if you're changing who you are out of fear of what other people think, spend some time praying and ask God to heal that area in your life, the broken areas where you're feeling like, I just can't be who I'm called to be. Maybe there's something that you're doing that isn't right. And God will show you that with discernment. I believe that. I know that. God wants to heal any part of your life that is keeping you from having connection with Him and other people. I truly believe this. And when we see other people through the eyes of love, we have compassion. We're not self-seeking. Love doesn't try to just look good to itself, but cares about another. And caring about another is not changing who you are to fit the version of yourself that they think that you need to be, but rather saying, wow, I'm so much bigger than this. God is so much bigger than this. My fear is so much smaller than what's inside of me. And I can go out and be who I was made to be. This isn't about bulldozing over people. This isn't about plowing down and forcing other people to do what we want or making them change for us. Other people don't have to change for you to become who you were made to be. So stop changing yourself to be who you think that you need to be to fit in with other people. Stop being silent out of fear and becoming who you were never meant to be. Stop trying to control so much of the situation around you. It's time to give it up. Give it up to God and realize, hey, the truth is we're really not in control. We're not in control of other people. We can't control other people. What we can do is be in control of our emotions, our thoughts, and have God put supernatural on top of our natural to go out and to go be who we were made to be, to become more of what we were made to be. Now, what does that mean? It's not meaning that we're less than because of that. But when we're in ourself, that we're trying to control everything, that's our own strength. We were never meant to carry that burden to control the world around us. You can only control your emotions, your choices, and what you do. And if you're allowing your choices to be dictated based on the fear of what other people think, you're allowing somebody else to have control over you. And so in that, I want to encourage you, if there's maybe something that you want to write, a message to speak, if you're somebody out there that maybe you're staying silent out of fear of what other people think, like I said, you don't need to rip the whole Band-Aid off right away, but talk to somebody. Maybe put it out there. Maybe put a few pieces of your story out there. You don't need to be silent. You don't need to change who you are just to fit into a box or a mold of how other people want you to act. Be yourself. God made you unique and individual. You don't need to be a copy of anybody else. Be exactly and authentically original and individual, and walk in love and hope and compassion. We'll talk soon. Grow your life, everybody.